Well, hello, and welcome to the Fisher Poetry Podcast, a showcase of prose, poetry, and song written and performed by those in the commercial fishing community. Mostly. I'm your host, Brad. Thanks for joining us today. Today's episode is from the 2024 FisherPoets Gathering in Astoria, Oregon. The location and performers in this episode, as well as links to home pages of both the archive and gathering, are included in the episode description. So, without further ado, here's the show.
Next, thank you, Colin, very much. And next, I also would like to compliment this audience. You're doing a really nice job. When I've spoken here or presented here before, it's been a very noisy audience, so I just want to say thank you for being on the quiet side. Next, I want to introduce Duncan Berry, who probably needs no introduction. He gives incredible workshops, and he's from Salmon River Watershed, the coastal one of Cascade Head. And his connection to commercial fishing and its community, well, I took his workshop yesterday, and that made it pretty obvious. Salmon trawler out of Warrenton in the 60s and 70s, and the Columbia River Bar tried its best to kill him. Thank you for not letting it. But failed. Oh, the bar failed. So he could be here to read to you tonight. Welcome to Duncan.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank our hosts, the Wet Dog, the Astoria Brewing Company. Thank you, crew. Also, the only thing that's more nerve-wracking than getting up here and reading poetry to, at the coast, if you read poetry, usually 3 to 5 people show up. So this is a little bit larger crowd. So the only thing more nerve-wracking is actually doing the emceeing, which I did last night. So I just wanted to thank these two hosts down here, Brad Warren and Abigail Calkin, for guiding us tonight. Yeah, thank you both. So I want to get everybody's blood pumping a little bit here, and you all have, most of you have beer mugs, so please use them as percussive devices for a little shanty here. Salmon really dominated a conversation in this town, but there's another incredible crop that comes across a lot of docks here, and that is Metacarcinus magister. Anybody know who that is? Dungeness crab sound more familiar? Yeah. So this is a ballad called The Ballad of Dungy Boy, and it's a 6 million year old revenge story. And see if you can figure out what the plot is after we get into it a little bit. But I do need your help on the chorus. So. Well, Metacarcinus magister is the samurai of the sea, armored up with 10 strong legs and just as proud as he can be. Well, Mr. Dungy Boy, you might have finally met your match, for there's a big old 8-legged octopus wants to wolf you down his hatch. He's gonna wolf you down his hatch. Yeah. Well, we're working a line of pots along the 20-fathom line, searching for our double boys and that sodium vapor shine. Well, God has a sense of humor, that much is crystal clear. Why else would he make crabs fill out at the worst time of the year? Well, lines are spinning in the black pots, swaying to and fro, sorting out 20 more crusty boys, and down the chute they go. Well, Metacarcinus magister is the samurai of the sea, armored up with 10 strong legs and just as mean as he can be. Well, Mr. Dungeon Boy, you might have finally met your match, but there's a big old hangry octopus gonna wolf you down his hatch. Well, swells are coming in high as a house, wind screaming in our ears, when suddenly the pots come up empty, feeding the worst of our fears. Someone's beat us to the punch, boys, taking no prisoners and leaving no trace. It's one of them eight-leggeds below with a big old smile on his face. 3 empty pots later, he comes, our bright red cephalopod Jinx. He lets out one hell of a crabby belch, and he looks me straight in the eye and winks. He looks me straight in the eye and he winks. Well, word up on the street about you, Octo. Word of your Squidward, Tentacool, and Octoraptor fame, and humans in their boats playing the El Pulpo Apocalypus Kraken game. Because sticks and stones, they can't break your bones, Psycho Mantis, Squicken, Octobro, Sir Crabdopus, Flumpy Dumpster. No. Because Mr. Dungeon Boy, you finally met your match. There's a big old eight-legged octopus, he just wolfed you down his hatch. He went and wolfed you down his hatch. Yeah. Thank you. Sometimes I have to do that to myself just to get my blood pumping. Poetry can be a little serious at times. But to be serious for a moment, a lot of that crab that was coming from that particular revenge story, which is really true, octopus have an amazing ability to head into a pot, rid it of all its crab, do a circle, find the next pot, and then he's got his line or she's got his line, and they take that line and they can empty a lot of pots. So those crab are coming into Ilwaco. Let's just imagine that for a minute. And that this city has experienced a lot of amazing events over the years, and some of those have been fires. There's been numerous ones, and they've almost burned this town to the ground. Well, one just happened January 22nd of this year at Ilwaco Landing, and it was a big challenge to the crab fleet. And so I just wrote a piece to talk about that a little bit called Burn, Baby, Burn. Also, a Fisher poet should be reflecting what's happening now, not just many, many years ago. So this is an attempt to do that. Well, my teachers always said, run towards your troubles. And I always cocked my head and wondered at this bit of advice. Problems usually hurt or stress me out, so mostly I just can't wait till they go away. But he would say, just think for a minute of all growing you have done in your life. How much of that came from the good times? And how many came from the hard times? The blade of you sharpened on something tricky and unexpected, not the way you planned for it to go, demanding that you adapt and change course and become a different you. January 22nd, I got the text on my phone, containing the tiny picture of the fire, my eyes reflecting crimson flowers of flame, gray-black clouds of billowing smoke. That's Ilwaco Landing, is all it said. Burn, baby, burn. It was my friend Kip writing me, my partner of many years, creating the first B Corp seafood company in the world. We had met many problems and grown together. And I'd been one chapter in the history of that creosote piling landing, helping to run it for almost a decade under the banner of fish people. Crab and tuna, black cod and halibut, millions and millions of pounds of these beautiful sea creatures streaming through that portal and into the waiting mouths of humans. And from the very beginning, Mike Shirley, the heart and soul of that landing. Anybody know Mike in this room? Mike Shirley, yeah. So Mike Shirley was the heart and soul of that landing and wanted to do the fishing business differently, redefining the relationship with our captains, without whom we would be nothing. In exchange for their life risk and skills on the water, the team offloaded quickly, had warm meals ready, a washer and a dryer. Each small act a form of honoring the last of the hunter-gatherers. And rough as it all was, it worked. And now this, burn, baby, burn. The Leviathan ice machine, 4,000 crab pots, weigh scales and hoists, 100-year-old timbers with memories of tides and totes, all arching into the sky, airborne. Talk about a problem. Burn, baby, burn. We are defined by our response to what happens to us. And Lord, what a response this time round. From GoFundMes to semis loaded with replacement pots, food cooked with love, and once again, Mike Shirley into the breach, this time with the Bornstein family. Everyone suspending the gossip and competition and the smallness for something bigger. Common unity, born of community. An outpouring that was always there waiting for a big problem to show how deep and raw and lasting the connection really is between fisherfolk. Running towards the problem and wrestling it to the ground with a giant bear hug and love of the sea and of boats and gear and shining fish, of a living maid on salty waters in this short moment of a life we've all been given here on this wild edge of a continent. And no one that went through the intensity of that fire will ever forget how brightly the light of salty brotherhood and sisterhood blazed in that moment. How flawed and yet beautiful we humans are. Burn, baby, burn. Yeah, amazing, really, to see the response to that hardship. Especially, what was it, 3 or 4 days before an opener, so it was not, the timing was a little nasty, I think, for a lot of crabbers. So moving quickly on, this one's just more about how we're all the minions and subjects of the weather, right? This is called Playing Rough. So well behaved during unbroken streams of blue days that I clean forgot you could play so rough. Yeah, on the last hot day of October, your light was ready to spill over the edge into darkness, the thin gray horizon hiding winter just out of sight. And then you came in swinging 6 straight days of house-rocking punches, 10 inches of life-giving liquid falling in the span of one morning's cup of coffee to the next, the river gorged and pushed out of its banks by the advancing tide. Sometimes you just don't know when to quit. And as I sit writing this, the thud of the surf calls me to walk outside, drawn by the pull of you and your knee-high foam and broken trees and the rearing, flagrant, creaming ladder of waves that you make from 6,000 miles of sea and the thin membrane of land under my feet. And in all of this you say, it's easy to walk in the high meadows of summer when the light is low in the west and the world holds still. But to really know me, you say, I want you here, in this, humbled by cold, salt-rimmed eyes staring into the west at me, dressed in gray, coming at you, playing rough. Yeah. So, looks like we're about 10 minutes in, is that right? 11? Yeah? Okay. And we've... Yeah, we got 12 minutes or 15? 12. 15 total. Okay. I'll do one more. How's that? This is dedicated to a creature of the sea that's here in this room with me. It's been with me for 50 years since I was a lad. And so this is dedicated to my wife, Melanie. It's called Selkie. Here, like so many wild shadow coasts of the north where chill waters are bounded by ancient rock, is the place where the legend of the Selkie was born. Of the beautiful dark-eyed feminine seal creature who frequents these shorelines, head just above the surface, eyes darting, quietly watching men and women come and go upon the sea. And once in a lifetime, one of these kind is so drawn to a landsman that she sheds her skin, taking the form of a woman emerging naked and beautiful and dark as the sea itself. And this is a legend I know to be true, for she has found me, this true life Selkie, watching me as I left each day to go out on the broad back of the sea, she who buried her skin after coming ashore, standing upright at my side, and all these many years left it there hidden high above the tide line. Loving her landsman, but never far from the roaring rumble of surf, salt still laced in her hair like some crystalline memory. She who goes to the sea to breathe, she who is more of the water than the land, she who is playful and flexible and curious and knowing She is an embodiment of this wild northern sea itself, running deep, pierced by light, and seductive, in the same way that the sea draws us to board our ships for that liquid planet within a planet where we feel more at home than on land itself. And this is how my Selkie is for me, different and mysterious, like liquid, both gentle and strong. I feel more at home in the sanctuary of her than anywhere else in this world. And I strive to be worthy of her and of her love, knowing that the fluid freedom and comfort of her beloved sea is always calling her, me striving to match this salty sisterhood with the simple and absolute love of a landsman who has been gifted this dark-haired and wild Selkie by the sea.
Thank you, Duncan. That was incredible. And we will now take a 10-minute short break and come back.
Well, that's it. This one's in the tote. The Fisher Poetry Podcast is written and produced by Brad Wortman. The theme music for this episode is courtesy of Mark Allen Lovewell and Molly Knoll. If you'd like to appear on or have comments about the show, please send an email to thefisherpoetryarchive@gmail.com. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe to haul the latest episodes into your net. The Fisher Poetry Podcast is available via our podcast host, Podbean, as well as Apple, YouTube, and Amazon. You can listen to our other podcast episodes, watch our YouTube videos, and join our community by going to thefisherpoetryarchive.com. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.
Come all young sailormen, listen to me. I'll sing you a song of the fish in the sea. Blow, ye winds, westerly, westerly blow. We're bound to the southward, so steady she goes.